Tony, I've heard you say on your commercials that many savers will need less money in retirement than they think. What do you mean by that?
So one of the big things that people, when they retire, sometimes we like to talk in terms of paychecks. So people will come into me and they'll say, Tony, I've worked 30 or 40 years. I've received a paycheck all of my life. And now what am I going to do to replace this paycheck? So we're not really sending you paychecks in retirement, but it is a good way to think about things, because what people forget about is that paycheck that you've received all those years when you were employed or are employed currently, much of that money never goes into your back pocket. Let's take a look at the typical paycheck. I mean, if you think about this, let's kind of highlight some things, Derek. Let's focus here and stay on this just for a second. Your gross amount, I can't remember if this was monthly or biweekly, it doesn't matter. Let's say your gross amount, that's what you're actually paid. So let's say your salary was $38.07 a month. That's what your employer's paying you. That's gross. And you say, well, what does that mean, Tony? That just means that's your salary. What we have to do is we have to look at all the deductions that are taken out of that paycheck. There's a myriad of things you might be having here that are taken out while you're in your working years. And then that leaves you with a net amount of only $1,800. So you'll see this in a minute. Let me kind of go through this, Derek, before you go to the next slide. So people are under the impression that they're actually making $3,800 a month and that's what they're living on. That is not what you're living on, folks. What you're living on is $1,806 a month. So what we're getting ready to see here in a minute, when you get into retirement, if you think about this, you're no longer under your traditional paycheck. Many of these deductions will go away. Your FICA will go away. Certain local taxes will go away. Let's say you're contributing to a 401k. You're not going to be contributing to a 401k anymore. So all of these deductions, many of those will go away the minute you retire, which is why I created this game plan, this proprietary software that only Tony Walker Financial has available to you. Now, who gets to go through the software at no additional charge to them? It's people that have at least $250,000 in assets. We're going to run through this income software. This is very involved. Usually takes anywhere from 4 to 7 hours to put all this together. But if that's you, if you're a saver and you're saying, Tony, I need a plan. I've got money I've saved. I want to reduce these taxes. I want to understand this paycheck concept. What's the difference between gross and net? This is what we're going to show you. So as we kind of come over here, Aaron might have to tighten this up on the screen a little bit. If you'll notice here, at age 65, this person, Bob, was making $85,000 a year, and all of a sudden there's nothing there. Well, that's because Bob stopped working. His paycheck is no longer there. In this case, Bob did have a pension. These are all annualized, by the way. He doesn't need his Social Security yet. We didn't start that until he turned 66 for whatever reason. That's another thing too, folks. People say, when should I start Social Security? It just depends on your situation. But that's really not the point of our discussion now. If you'll come down here all the way down to total annual income, notice when Bob was working, he had $85,000 of gross annual income, $10,000 a year gross from some real estate he owned. So that led to $95,000. And then all of a sudden he's with Tony Walker Financial. He's ready to be worry-free in retirement, excited to start. And all of a sudden we start sending him $63,000 a year gross. You might look at it and go, well, what happened, Tony? Well, we pulled his pension, in this case, rental income. We had a Schwab account we set up for him. And in that year, that's all he needed. So again, folks, you don't want to take out any more if you don't need. Now, in this case, what happened was we started bumping this up. Why did we take him from 63 to 85? Because Bob, in this case, has more money than he knows what to do with, which is a good thing. You see, at Tony Walker Financial, we're different than a lot of money managers and advisors who tell you to just keep holding on, holding on. In fact, go to the 3 halves of life. This is interesting. See, a money manager would have looked at Bob's situation and go, Bob, you better hold on to that money, man. Don't spend it. Just keep taking $64,000 or whatever it is just to get by. And we would say, that's nonsense. The reason we ran that particular, and put this up full screen again, Aaron, the reason we've got him making more and more money sooner and pulling it out of the plan is so that he can enjoy it now because of this graphic. You see, Bob is what we call in halftime. That's generally between the ages of around 60 and 70. This is the point in time when most people can enjoy their money. As you go through the second half of life, as you get older, you're going to need less and less money. I just had a couple in today who's a client. They said, Tony, you're right. We're in our mid-70s. We can't even spend this money. So if you're sitting there looking at this graphic and you realize, yeah, that makes sense. Why is my advisor not encouraging me to spend it? It's because they have a conflict of interest. They don't want you to spend it because that's taking money out of their pockets.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed that video. If you'd like, check out these other clips. And be sure to hit that like button and that subscribe button for more videos.